Of virtual motorsports is now. This September, the heart of sim racing beats in Chicagoland as the Sim Gaming Expo takes over the Schaumburg Convention Center, September 5th through the 7th. Go wheel to wheel in our competition area, test the latest gear, meet top brands, creators, and celebrate with fellow sim racing enthusiasts. Whether you're a seasoned sim racer or new to the sport, this is your chance to be part of history. To purchase tickets and see the full exhibitor lineup, visit SimGamingExpo.com.
Live from iRacing's virtual Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 5 of the Sim Gaming Expo Truck Series. Well, as always, happy that you are tuned in with us at a Green Flag TV Wednesday night for tonight's running of the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125. As always, myself, Evan Posocco, Derrick Watson up in the broadcast booth, our producer Dustin Ollis downstairs. And Derrick, I say as always, but it's been a while since I've been able to join you guys on a show. We've seen Daytona and Worldwide Technology Raceway over the course of the last 2 weeks, and now another short track on deck here in Brownsburg.
Yeah, I guess you would call it the little baby brother of the track not too far away, the big track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So here we are at Lucas Oil IRP. Weird enough, one of the 2 Lucas Oil tracks in the iRacing service. You have to be more specific sometimes which one you're talking about. So the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125 tonight. Next week, Kentucky spelled the correct way. Then the Glen, Richmond, Milwaukee Mile, and Darlington. So I guess, yeah, this is, the last short track on the schedule. Still got a road course, a couple mile and a half left. And it's going to be a fun schedule. I'm excited for this. Let's take a look at the points here and see where we stand. Right now, Richard Regan, of course, won last week. Has opened that lead up by 13 points over Steve Baker. Thomas Sink only a point back. Then Holly, Barney back in your top 5. Look at this, Evan. I was thinking, no matter what league you're in, whether it's Premier Sim Racing or other leagues we've covered in the past, to be halfway through a season and to have, that tight of a gap for your top 5, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think you look at the gap, right? I mean, Richard Regan's won 3 of the 4 races thus far, and his advantage only stands at 13 points. I think that's a huge takeaway as well, right? And obviously you look back to the race in Daytona, finished back in 31st position, almost certainly burning the drop week that he's going to have. So if you're a Steve Baker, a Thomas Sink, even a Bradley Holly, right? Robert Barney right there as well. I mean, there's a handful of drivers within striking distance. Now, they're going to need Richard Regan to have a bad night, an off night at a place other than a super speedway, right? They're going to need to find a victory lane to score some maximum race points if they want to be in the conversation. But to me, if that guy's won 3 of the 4 races so far and I am within 20 points of him, I would be feeling pretty good about my situation if it's in terms of can they challenge him for the championship, or if it's just contesting for a second or third in the points by the time we get down to the end of the season. Well, as always, want to take a look at those team standings as well. No surprise, Regan Bogue Motorsports therefore stands atop the team standings pylon. Also, that gap a little bit larger back to the Whataback Racing Group, and then from there on back, I think RBM, Miracle Flow, a good battle for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, a great battle on for 3rd and 4th. I mean, even back to P5 for Solpec. But there's some individual battles going on. Of course, the 2 Tabula Rasa teams about 30 points apart, and that'll be an interesting battle this week and every week. And then, so I'm excited to see all the teams. I felt like really there's a lot more teams competitive, different team names this season. Grinds Racing up there in P6. So I'm excited to see a lot of the different teams up here scoring points and represented in this top 10.
So it's going to be fun to follow that and the rest of those battles as the season continues, including tonight 6 races left to go in season number 2 of this Sim Gaming Expo Truck Series here with Premier Sim Racing. We are going to be racing into the evening here at IRP, and before we join the live qualifying session, I want to say thanks to all of the people who make tonight's show possible. It starts at the top with our friends at the Sim Gaming Expo. Get ready for the ultimate simulation gaming experience. Sim Gaming Expo is bringing all genres of simulation and gaming tech under one roof September 5th through 7th at the Schaumburg Convention Center in Chicagoland. Test the latest gear, meet your favorite streamers, and connect with a community that lives and breathes simulation. Don't miss your chance to be a part of it. Grab your tickets now at simgamingexpo.com.
Also want to thank tonight's race sponsor, the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, speed is just the starting point. Success, however, is built through discipline, focus, and development. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, their iRacing coaching is built to develop winners through one-on-one training, where the focus is on the fundamentals. Then they help turn fast drivers into champions through smart racecraft, disciplined decision-making, and pressure-proof performance. This isn't about quick fixes. It's about building a foundation for lasting success. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, developments for wins, but you build for championships.
As well, I want to say thanks to our friends at Palm Rat Golf. Palm Rat Golf blends classic style with a modern fit designed to move you from the office to the course to wherever the day takes you. Timeless looks, everyday comfort, all in one. Palm Rat Golf, made to move, styled to stand out.
Then there's Outlap Motorsports. At Outlap, it's not just about horsepower. It's not just about lap times. It's about the people behind the wheel. They're in the paddock, they're in the pits, heck, they're even wrenching late nights just like you. Whether you're chasing tents on the stopwatch or just trying to clear your head on a Sunday drive, Outlap's got your back with honest support, real tuning, and a true love for the motorsports scene. But here's the real talk. Motorsports isn't a hobby. For a lot of us, it's therapy. So that's why at Outlap, they proudly support men's mental health and encourage drivers to check in with one another on and off the track. Fast cars, real talk, Outlap Motorsports.
And last but certainly not least, on behalf of Window Nation. Window Nation is recognized by Forbes as the top vinyl window replacement company in the country. Their energy-efficient windows are designed to keep homes cool during the summer and warm through the winter, all proudly made in the heart of the USA. With expert installation and industry-leading quality, Window Nation is the smart choice for any window replacement project. So big thanks to all of those partners and more that we'll talk about as the night continues for being a presenting partner of tonight's coverage as the qualifying session ticks into its final moments. Derrick getting set to get underway here tonight.
Yeah, getting ready to get set underway for what's going to be a very wild race, I suspect. A short track, a very, oddly length short track. It's not a half mile. It's not 3/4 mile. Evan, I'll let you do the fractions here. It comes out to 0.686 miles. So if you want to do the fractions, that's your call.
I think that's going to have too many numbers on the back end of that one. We'll round it to 0.69 and call it a day. We're ready to go short track racing at Indy. Let's head trackside and take a look at your Profit Python starting grid. And pole position tonight belongs to the number 2, Steve Baker in the Solpec Precision Racing Toyota brings us to the green flag. He'll be joined by the Regan Bogue Motorsports 38 of James O'Brien in second. Third place starter tonight goes to the number 24 of Andrew Sharp. To his outside on row number 2, the 26 of Robert Barney starts in fourth. Back in P5, you'll find the 43 of Matt Scherf. To the outside on row number 3, P6 starter tonight, the 14 of Matt Gagnon. Back on row number 4, P7 starter, the number 12 of James Morgan. He's next to the number 56 of Richard Regan Jr. looking for a fourth win. He'll have to do it from P8 on the grid. And then to round out your top 10 on row 5, P13, number 13, I should say, Ted Lowendick will start P9. And to his outside, it's the Woodaback Racing number 60 of Colton Lane in 10th.
Going to move back to P11. You'll find Nicholas Lacosta in the number 816, Tabby DeRossi Esports Machine. Next to Bradley Holly in the Miracle Flow 184. Jacob Dunn is lined up behind his teammate in the number 3, Purple and Black Machine. Next to Steve Loving, number 27. Go back on to P15. Thomas Sink in the Grinds Racing, number 48, is next to Nick Byer in that very purplish number 15 truck. Douglas Rice, or Doug Rice, is 17th in the 35 truck. He's next to Brian Tope in the 54, back in P18. P19 is Zachary Williams in the number 89, and he's lined up next to Dustin Baumgartner in the number 16.
That brings you all the way through your top 20 as we take a look back to row number 11. 21st on the grid to Jacob Watson, and 22nd will go to Nick Seraph. Behind them, number 23 on the grid goes to Brandon Walter, and 24th goes to Kyle Dewey. Continuing on through drivers who did not take times and qualified based on provisionals. Mike Toomer Jr. will start from 25th. Brad Adams will start from P26. And the last row on the grid, 27th place goes to Zachary Burnt. And 28th will go to Nick Hunter. That's a look top to bottom at your Profit Python starting grid. Profit Python, every second counts on the track and in the world of deals. That's the edge Profit Python delivers. It's the ultimate Discord for deal hunters and side hustlers with lightning fast alerts on price drops, secret sales, and hidden jackpots before the rest of the world catches on. The race to profit is on. Scan the QR code to join now. Profit Python, strike fast, profit faster. As this field is lined up behind the iRacing pace car and going to be looking for the green flag. Next time around, Steve Baker, James O'Brien, side by side on the front row. As we're about to get underway, as always, 75 minutes on the board.
Yep, 75 minutes, a very fast, quick laps here. A top lane racetrack, probably some single file racing. I'm excited to get it moving.
We're happy to have you with us for the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125 pace car down to pit road. Steve Baker in control of the field. They come to Barney the Flagman as we say, let's go racing in Indianapolis. First lap of the books, it's your pole sitter Baker who controls from P1. O'Brien was putting up a good fight, Derrick, but got into the outside wall in turn number 3. You saw some of the sparks. That's the difference. The two needed to get clear. Your top 5 now, single file.
Yeah, I thought this was single file out pretty quickly. That's what my experience has always been. racing here at this track. It's kind of a top lane track. What you're going to need to do, Evan, if you want to make it pass, you're going to kind of shoot to the bottom, and then you're going to need to get it back up. That old, the meme now is the old Dale Jr. slide job kind of move. But that's what you're going to have to pull off here. But look at that. I mean, down deep. That's probably 8-9 cars single file already as Steve Baker is lining them on around here.
And you can see drivers deferring to the outside lane as they head through the corners. Drivers right up and against that outside wall. 12 degrees of banking here at IRP. Not the most banked track you'll find around. Definitely on the shorter side of things. So that's why drivers get to go to the outside line, try to carry speed through the corners. You see a little bit loose that time off the corner. That was the 9 of Jacob Watson. Got a bit sideways. Right now, he's enthralled in a side-by-side battle with Brett Adams as we wind it back and take a look at lap number 1. The challenge for the lead with O'Brien just a little bit too deep into the corner and showered sparks on the drivers behind him.
Hey, credit, though, to O'Brien because he let that truck right up against the wall and controlled it, but did not yank it off the wall, right? That could have led to that truck getting super loose, maybe spinning across the track. So great control in that truck. Still up in P2 is James O'Brien. So you see him there in the back of that shot. Here we're watching from the back end or from the side, I guess, of Steve Baker. And look, the lights are already on. We're doing some nighttime racing in IRP. Kind of reminds me when I used to watch trucks and now Xfinity cars at this track. I don't ever remember there being a daytime race at IRP. I'm sure there was. I just don't remember ever watching one on TV.
If you've ever done the week in Indy for the Indy 500, headed out to IRP, also going over to Anderson, those are all staples of 500 a week. So much racing in the state of Indiana and the greater Indianapolis area, and this track one that is notable in the real world and I think still a favorite to many who love short track racing here on the sim. Watching a battle right now for 7th and 8th spot. That's the 184 of Bradley Holly on the outside. It's always hard to miss those iconic Miracle Flow colors on that Ford F-150. And on the outside line, trying to clear Lowendick. He's up 4 spots already. Now make it 5. Clear to P7 goes Bradley Holly.
Yeah, that was just an example of how strong. And I think the outside is strong here, Evan, just because of the way science works and, how momentum works. That outside lane, you get to carry more speed through it. You're not cranking the wheel as hard. I'm a little surprised to see them kind of down towards the middle lane, for the corners. I've seen some drivers want to ride those corners high. You see a couple trucks up there actually doing it a little higher. The 56 was up there a little high and maybe a couple others. But, yeah, this is going to be difficult to pass tonight. This is one of those tracks where, honestly, getting someone to pit here from the front is going to be a real negotiation because getting them to give up that track position is going to be a very, very difficult talk.
The drivers know that that's going to be critical. Those 5 spots gained, I mentioned for Holly, the most we see out of anybody inside of the top 15 right now. Only Brett Adams plus 7 bests that, and he started back in P26 based on the fact that that truck did not qualify. So that's a bit deceptive. That truck top 10 on speed, but expect to see Brett Adams try to continue to work his way through the field and get back up to some of the other trucks that he feels like he's a little bit more equal to on pace. It's a good representation, though, as you look at that 3 of Jacob Dunn and you see the field starting to spread out. It includes the leaders trying to pull away a little bit and, no, for the moment, at least side by side until you get back into the high teens. So this is a tricky track. A lot of drivers will say you have to race a short track like this, somewhat like a road course where it's driver versus the surface. That's Dustin Bumgarner to the inside of the 816 and Nick Acosta for P17. Quick work on making that move on the inside.
Oh, maybe not. There's the 23 still digging. Really was late on the brakes here. Outbroke Acosta and then got back up top. Hey, speaking of the 3 of Dunn, of course, while you were out doing your adventures, the 3 of Dunn won the Daytona race, the Great Pride Ride, and I have to share this with you. I don't know if you saw it. Dunn's an Alabama native, so he always has that. He always says that awful phrase that the Alabama fans say, that Roll Tide stuff that's just cringy. And so he ended his driver winning interview with Roll Tide, and I showed my detest for the comment. Nolan Rimple, being from Canada, did not understand the college football sentiment of what he said or why I detested it. But listen, you and I are not equals. You're Michigan, I'm Ohio State, but we both can understand, not Alabama.
Anybody but Alabama.
Yeah,
and,
right.
I'll say I got to go to a bowl game last year, and it was Michigan versus Alabama here in Tampa, and It was a ranked, by the way, number 11 Alabama Crimson Tide against an unranked Michigan Wolverines team. And it was the unranked Michigan Wolverines who won that bowl game against Alabama with their top O-line in the game. So I will counter that to his point, but it was great to see Jacob Dunn get to victory lane. Another new winner to join the list of drivers who have been up there and had success in the 2 seasons so far, Premier Sim Racing truck action. And hopefully for him, he can translate that into some more success as the season carries on. This is the battle we first jumped back at about 3-4 laps ago, still ongoing. Dustin Bumgarner, the highest runner of these in P16. It's Brett Adams behind him, Nick Acosta there on back. Acosta, the loser in this group just for the moment. He qualified real well, started this race at 11th, but -8 from the start of the race means that he has lost more spots than anybody else so far. So the Racing Expert Chevrolet, I think, is going to want to find something if we could work into a long green flag run to make up for some of the ground he's lost here in the opening, call it 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I know Acosta missed team practice last night, so I think that may be why, at least temporarily, some of these Tabula Rasa esports drivers are a little faster. This is one of those tracks, Evan, that's kind of unique. It doesn't come up that often, even in the official races. This is not a track we visit a whole lot. So I think there's probably more drivers than we think who are seeing this track, maybe not for the first time. They've practiced this week, but maybe not raced here a bunch, right? We go to Daytona, we go to Darlington, we go to Michigan. You know, those iconic tracks that it feels like we do every season or every 2 seasons. This is a track that I bet there's at least probably 5 drivers in the field tonight who've never raced at before.
Yeah, I mentioned that if you enjoy short track racing here on the service, it's kind of like a cult classic type of racetrack, right. But it is not a mainstream one, right? The Daytonas and the Kentucky might be a bit vague, right? But the Darlingtons, the Richmonds, those are racetracks where everybody's got a ton of seat time in. But you're right, unless it's been in organized racing, it's fair to think that a couple of drivers may not have a ton of experience here at IRP. A quick look at Nick Seraph. That truck is down pit road. First truck to come down under green flag conditions. I do not see damage on the 67, but the 67 was well off pace when that truck came in. So we'll update if he goes back on the racetrack, but I would put that squarely in the bank of unscheduled service as you see Baker as your leader, almost 9/10 of a second ahead of the next closest driver.
That's pretty impressive. I was really amazed and happy for him when we saw how big that gap is. By the way, if you're Steve Baker, you've got to have a grin on your face because right now you have got the pole, you've led a lap, you're currently winning the race, so that you're really having a max point kind of scenario right now. And Richard Regan's back in 5th, so you came in tonight up 13 in the points, but very likely you're doing some really good work to help close that off if you're Steve Baker. So this is a good run for him. Of course, we're far from done. We're an hour and 5 minutes ish from being done. Who knows what happens in that time frame? But right now, if you're Steve Baker, this is momentum building, and I'm more impressed by that gap right there than anything. So we now come back and watch this battle in the middle of the track. That's Kyle Dew on the outside. That's 89 on the inside. There's Brandon Walter up top. So this is an interesting battle, and unfortunately, Williams has to just feel outpowered right now. I mean, that's just the nature of this track. It's, I guess you call it a single groove racetrack. It's just hard to be on the bottom and make anything happen here.
And you can see when drivers get into the battles, I think one thing that does help an attacking driver, as you see the 15 machine under fire here, and we'll see if Doug Rice in the 35 tries to implement it, is if you want to go make a move on the bottom and the preferred lanes up top, you're going to have to put a bit of a slide job on them. It's going to be tricky to do this right here, and that is just make that turn down off the corner. 15 got a little bit tight, but because the preferred lanes up top, the bottom's wide open. So here you go. You can go down there all you want, but you got to make a decision. You either try to drive it off the center or pull up halfway through, and that's exactly what you got to do right there. The bottom's open. You got to commit to the bit. It was well done for the 35. That is the recipe to make moves, and Beyer into the fence that time in 3. The 816, and Nicholas Acosta tried to double up on him. Couldn't do it. 15 in the fence again. Beyer might feeling a little bit flustered now 30 laps into a run.
I sees all those familiar paint schemes in a row. Doesn't got one in front of him, and just different color variations for that team. Just the blue, the orange, the green, but they're all over Beyer right now. And so I think Acosta probably in that move right there Evan probably needs to wait a little longer to make that dip to the bottom to make it work from what we saw. But here's Andrew Sharp up front. And Andrew in a top 3 position tonight, not number 24, having a really solid run here. And a great job. So I'm proud to see Andrew up there. You know, Evan, I was thinking as we started the broadcast tonight, I was thinking about my memories of watching this track on TV. I remember as a kid, my first memory was, in pre-race, there wasn't enough room on pit roads. All the cars kind of started, diagonal on the track is how they gridded. And then, of course, you pulled away from there. In later tracks, iRacing sort of did that thing at Pocono and Charlotte, and I think at Michigan, where we kind of start pointed to the outside. I would love if we ever get a refresh on IRP for us to grid on the track, but pointed to the inside like they used to do it.
Well, you talk about, this track and how it's a little bit niche compared to some others and some of the unique things both on track, right? How different this surface is. Maybe a bit of a stretch. Could compare it a bit to Richmond, but I think that's even a bit of a stretch, right? These racetracks will have unique characteristics on track. Same thing happens off track, right? I've always talked about this phenomenon where for whatever reason, whatever you consider your home track, even if somebody's a short track driver and their home track's an intermediate, for whatever reason, your hometown track, you just seem to be a little bit quicker at on the sim, right? You have those memories from attending tracks in the real world and in real life, and then you take them into the sim, and you're just going to run there more. You're going to learn that track more, and I think that's always fun that drivers can attach those memories to places they've been to in real life and to real races they've attended, and kind of how that transfers over to the sim is fun. And I'm sure all these drivers in the field have a story or two about several tracks on the calendar that make them important to them. And that's why I also enjoy the fact that this Season 2 schedule, Derrick, mixed up a little bit from what we saw in Season 1. It gives us a completely different look at racetracks than when we crowned our Season 1 champ earlier in the year.
Yeah, not just in the disciplines, but in the tracks. We've been to Gateway this season. We're going to Milwaukee towards the end of the season. We're here at IRP. It really is a very different schedule than what I think we see as, again, the stereotypical tracks. But boy, this 2 truck, look at that. Last time by is just walking away little by little. Actually lost about a tenth. But overall, that's almost getting close to being a second ahead. Well, it gets 3/4 in the turns here, but doing a great job is Steve Baker, just running laps, being consistent. But with the way this track works, Evan, and how fast the laps are, we're talking about 22, 23-second lap times. It can't be too much longer before Steve Baker has some trucks in his windshield. There's a couple up there that are going to be a lap down not too far from now.
And once the leaders catch the first of those lap trucks, which is going to be Zach Williams as the last driver on the lead lap, that is the next truck up the road. From the perspective of race leader Steve Baker, they're just going to continue. You see that line of trucks, make it a half a second or a little bit less between every truck they're on up the road. That's going to be a constant battle as this race continues. If we can see green flag racing like we're currently looking at, which was something drivers were a little bit worried about. It's a tricky track. We've seen some drivers get up and into the fence. Thankfully, most of those moments have been one truck and one truck only, but I don't know if many drivers went into this expecting to have to deal with sustained green flag runs and lap traffic, but it's a good problem to have. And if Steve Baker gets to that point, which he will shortly, we'll keep you posted on if that gives him any challenges. And if it does slow him down, James O'Brien, P2, is 1 second back. Is he going to be able to close in and into the conversation? That battle right there, that was Bumgarner and Lane for 14th and 15th position. And then jumping up to the number 33 truck, that's going to be Kyle Dewey, 22nd, Nicholas Hunter in 23rd.
Yeah, that's great battles all across this track. That's one of the benefits of this track being a short track is there's never any empty space. So someone's always battling for something. Of course, you talked about, here at Indy. At this track, I think we're roughly, 10 miles away from downtown Indianapolis, so we're not that far from the big track. Here's a battle, right? This is Bradley Holly getting around Robert Barney, by the way. That's a pass for P4, so Brad's moving his way up, is up a few spots here. Actually, it's up 8 spots on the day as Bradley Holly, come to think of it. So I was going to say, hey, we get to do our own little virtual Indy trip this week. You and I tonight here at IRP with the Premier Sim Racing SimGamingExpo Truck Series. And we see Brad there in the webcam. You and I get to move to the big track Friday night on the iRacing Network. We'll be calling the Brickyard full-length 400 So we can do our own little trip throughout Indy this week.
Yeah, please don't add 100 miles to that. Brickyard 400, not 5. It's
I didn't say 5, did I? Oh, okay.
Almost,
if I said 5,
almost,
okay.
But I think it was just out of habit, right? Some of the other the iRacing special events, Bristol, Daytona, 500, so that thing is going to be a enduro event on the track, and it's going to be fun. Hope you join us for that one Friday. All kinds of exciting stuff going on. As I mentioned to Bradley Hollywood, it was making his way through the field earlier. It is the unmistakable color palette of that Ford, and you again see it. It's always copied over to his room, and what I will stand by is one of the best views in sim racing, and that is that POV perspective as you see him working the ultra wide. And right now, again, to your point, up 8 spots. He's the second biggest mover in this race, and is, I think, a little bit faster than Andrew Sharp up the road. Now, there's a lapped truck in between the two of them. Holly's going to have to deal with Zach Williams, and this might slow him down a little bit, but Holly, I think, has more in him still.
Yeah, in fact, last time even with the lap truck involved, I think Brad was still almost 0.2 of a second faster than Andrew Sharp. So here's Brad's going to try to cut down on that lap truck, and Brad's hoping that truck realizes, hey, I'm amongst the lead lap people. But he did really Brad a disservice there by not letting Brad through. That was having to run the front straight down towards the middle to bottom will allow Andrew Sharp to kind of pull away. Now Brad's clear. Here comes Robert Barney on through. Barney got a better run, I think, via that lap truck. And so, but boy, look at that gap now. Remember how close it was. It increased a little bit.
It bumps up a bit. Certainly Holly lost some time dealing with the lapped truck, and that's going to be a common thread. Zach Williams, Brian Tope, and Mike Toomer Jr. have all been lapped by the race leaders, so those lap trucks are in the midst of all of these battles. Is on the inside line. Sharp going to pull through. Now he gets by Brian Tope, sorry, so he's able to get on through. So again, not for position, and now it's going to be important as you see the leader, Steve Baker, in the midst of a ton of lap traffic, the only one in that frame almost as a lead lap truck with James O'Brien, the 38, the red and black Toyota, has been able to close the gap a little bit to Baker because of all of these lap trucks that he's dealing with. So pay attention to the pylon on the left of your screen. It's the 2 of Baker in first, the 38 of O'Brien in second, and the 24 of Sharps in third. Just keep in mind now, as this green flag run stretches on, who's in this battle and who isn't.
So I'll tell you what, we sometimes talk about driver mentality and how a driver feels and how that compares to data. I mean, the pylon says they're 0.9 of a second apart. But if you're James O'Brien in that P2 spot, if you're Andrew Sharp here in the P3 spot with all those lap trucks between you and the 2 of Steve Baker, you feel like you're about 9 miles behind right now because it feels like an impossible task to get around all these trucks. Riding on the top of the truck here for that number 24. I mean, it just look how far ahead it looks to see his next competitor there. I mean, that's going to be the 15 right there. That's Zachary Burnt up ahead. I mean, it's almost hard to spot James O'Brien, even though he's only, I guess in this case, about a second and a half ahead. But yeah, there's James O'Brien.
Almost a moment there as they had contact with the number 19 machine on his way up, and that's going to be constant as this run continues. Everything the leader's got to deal with, if Baker loses time, if O'Brien loses time getting to pass the lap trucks, eventually Sharp, Holly, Barney, etc., eventually they're going to have to make those same moves. As there's the contact there I talked about. When you go to the bottom to make the move, you got to commit, right? And you want to pull up halfway through the corner. That was a commit, just wasn't clear. That's an important step. Is look at this, 2x2 like a restart, but at race pace.
Speaking of committing, Richard Regan really committed that bottom lane and committed to kind of late braking there in that corner in that 56. Of course, this week, different look for Richard, wearing the MS Society paint scheme. Of course, not too far from now. iRacing holds the annual charity race, the Race for the Cure. That's this year, Evan, is GT3s at Lime Rock. I know in the past that I know the guys have tried to convince you to get in the car. Have they done that yet?
So far, unsuccessfully, just because I don't want to ruin everybody else's day. I am very bad in a GT3, as you see how aggressive these guys are getting. I do, though, love Lime Rock Park. That may be one of my favorite circuits on the road.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, this year, I think it's Steve Myers and Chad Knaus in the car together on the broadcast split. And I thought, boy, maybe we could petition to put Evan in the car for a lap or two. I'd pay to see that.
I don't know if anybody wants that. I think I'll do my my service time by volunteering my time as a camera op or something that is non-hazardous to the rest of the competitors. Is you talk about hazards, that 24 of Andrew Sharp was all the way up the hill in turn number 1, got into the fence, and it's going to allow the 184 machine to go on through. Bradley Holly now at a race-high P3, the best he's looked all night long, and now we'll set his sights on P2 O'Brien, who's about 2 seconds up the road, and 24 loses a second spot as Barney also gets on through.
And it's important to say, now we got Kyle Dewey in this mix here, but for a moment ago, you had the 184, the 56, you had Robert Barney, and the 24 Sharp. These are all lead lap trucks, except for that one up top, the 33. But, you and I focused a moment ago in the story about, how far away you can feel from a competitor. These 4 guys are right on top of one another. They're going to go around, maybe not, I thought they were going to go right around Nicholas Lacassi. He's trying to stay up top and kind of let him by, and there they start to go through. Holly got the better of that run. And now here's Ted Lowendick in the Gummy Clusters car. He's going to try to move on through. So at one point, you got to talk about how apart you can feel from a competitor. These guys right here are on top of one another, as Kyle Dewey almost got loose there off of Nicholas Acosta.
Jacob Watson talking with Richard Regan as a lapped car there, apologizing that I was just trying to get out of the way, but there's not a lot of space. 3 wide that time with the number 9 all the way up to the outside. Watson on the outside wall. Lowendick on the bottom, and it's Kyle Dewey, the lap truck center of it all. 3 wide they go. Andrew Sharp now in that white 24 truck to make his move on the bottom. He eventually gets on by. One thing I don't think we've talked enough about, Derrick, is Andrew Sharp's logo and the fact that it is basically a 24, and that's the truck number. 10 out of 10 on the branding. And I would dare say I like the giant number on the hood. That might be, I know it's his logo. It's not literally the number, but I like that. I dig it.
Yeah, it's a good self-branding. It's that we talked about that font earlier in the season being that sort of modern font, I guess you want to call it, with the 4 being different. Not having
basically the S
arm on
from
it.
Sharp. Yeah.
Right. So it's a good look. I do like that truck. It stands out. And hey, if he had a spotter, that's a spotter's dream truck right there, because it's very easy to distinguish, very different colors, a very good look here. But look at this now. Here is the battle for P3. Bradley Holly and Richard Regan Jr. We've seen this battle many a times throughout the season and a half of Premier Sim Racing and the SimGamingExpo Truck Series leagues, but it never somehow gets any less exciting. These two get up here. Here's your onboard camera look. Now look at this here. Look at how much Regan is moving that wheel around. That's the effect this track has on you. And by the way, other thing to look at, so watch this here. We're going to go out. We're going to get the wheel straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds before you have to start thinking about moving your hands again. There is not much of a mental break for a driver here. Sometimes you go to the bigger tracks, your Poconos, your Michigan, your super speedways, and you kind of get to stop and breathe and think and relax on a straightaway. There's no relaxing at a short track like this.
Yeah, the corners here are deceptively long. I would not say that Martinsville gives you a time to breathe, but when you look at those 2 tracks from high above, Martinsville's got much tighter corners, much longer straightaways. A higher percentage of your lap time here is spent in the corner than at a Martinsville.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just deceptive. I don't know if people really think about that here at IRP until you see it from that angle. Also, we started in late afternoon conditions. The lights are on in the infield here at IRP, and I think the sun has almost completely set now behind the grandstands off of turn number 4, so there will be some elements of the track that will change as it will start to cool down as we carry on into the night.
Now almost 10 p.m. virtual sim time, so you can see why the lights are on. A cool 82 degree Fahrenheit. That's probably about as cold as I bet this track is going to get, and we're already at 10 p.m., so I doubt the track cools off much more. But for a short track, that's a lot of grip in that track at 82. So a good run there. Evan, do you think virtual sim time observes daylight savings?
I'll say yes. I feel like
Okay.
it has to.
Okay, fair enough. I wasn't sure, so I thought I'd go with the expert. You are the commentary guy, so you know.
Does that, if virtual sim time, does that implement the existence of virtual daylight time also then? Is there
So
a
would it
virtual,
be-
like a
would it be-
standard time and a daylight time?
I was going to say, would it be VST and then VDST then? Is that what it would be?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
What's the default iRacing day? That is,
May 15th?
yeah, it's like a summer day. Now, in sim here, the league has set this to a specific date in time, actually set to a couple days ago, set to the 19th. So whatever the actual day, time, weather, and temperature settings were over the weekend, but not everybody will use that. Some series will run what is default iRacing day, which I think you're right, is kind of a nondescript day in May, relatively warm. But it seems like most leagues, and that includes Premier Sim Racing here, has a fluctuating day of date, which does mean that maybe a night race earlier in the year going to act a little bit differently than one later. Is we've got pit stops. The number 9 truck, Jacob Watson, will come down from P26. First truck we've seen pit in a while. Nick Seraph made an unscheduled pit stop earlier. By the way, that 67 has not returned to the racetrack. So where does this put us strategy-wise? We are not yet at the halfway point in this race. Remember, 75 minutes on the clock, still 47 minutes to go. The sim says we've got about 125 laps left at this pace if this race stays green.
I was thinking for the 9 truck, that means you're probably cutting this race into thirds, is what I was thinking in my head. By the way, this whole pit lane, by the way, is very deceiving. Talk about the corners. This pit lane, everything about it is deceiving. The entry is abrupt and fast and hits you pretty hard. It's a very quick pit lane, although the slowest speed. So staying to the right-hand side of pit road is very difficult here. In the pit exit, I don't know if we can watch the 9 come off of pit road, but the way you have to exit here and observe the blue line. Watch, he's going to have to stay right there below that yellow line. Watch how long this yellow line goes for. He's not allowed to merge until right about there. That's when you're allowed to merge. That is a long line off of a pit road compared to most tracks.
It almost, ironically enough, reminds me a bit of the big track here down the road, right? The Indianapolis Motor Speedway with those out lanes. The concern there is you're not necessarily up against the track, but you have grass on either side of you, and if you overstep one way or the other, you could spin out. The challenge here is obviously that is a very thin apron, and if you put 2 right side tires above that yellow line before you get to the blue cone on the exit of turn number 2, that would be an unsafe pit exit penalty, and that truck would be forced back down to the pit lane. So if we have anybody like some of the battles we're looking at right here, drivers 4 position pit near each other, it would be really interesting to see how they would treat that pit road exit down and on the apron if they're trying to compete with each other for time and pace for position. That 35 of Doug Rice is not for position in the battle. The blue Chevrolet on the outside is a lapped car getting passed about the 26 of Robert Barney. Behind him, though, that is for position. And Richard Regan trying to get around the 35, can't do it. Ted Lowendick sees an opportunity. He'll go to the inside in a battle for P5.
Oh boy, hold on. I have a thought, but I will watch this first. Is they're beating, they're banging, they're rubbing paint, and they're all good. Sometimes in pre-race, you and I talk about our predictions for the race and what we think may happen, and we kind of do some fun, non-serious over/under bets. We didn't do the how many times would we say 3 wide IRP bets. I would have put the under on whatever number you gave me, but that's already the second one, and there's still about 45 minutes to go.
A long way to go in this race, and again, if you try to translate the numbers to laps, your race leaders have completed 78 laps. There's about 118 laps to go. So if they want to one-stop this race, you've got to get another 20 laps out of this race, and then you can do it on a one-stopper. I feel like if we were going to see pretty wholesale 2-stop strategy numbers, and split the race into thirds, to your point, I feel like we would have had to have seen that decision for many already, unless it's really close, right? And then you're talking about drivers trying to get to a one-stopper, but maybe coming up short. But just for a mental note, give it about 20 laps, we'll call it. That equates to maybe 8 minutes total time pass. So right when we get close to the 37-minute marker, halfway or so in this race, I think we'll be seeing drivers looking to make one single pit stop in a race that has been green throughout, but has not been without its share of moments, and that was another one there, is sideways off of turn number 4 was that 99 of Brandon Walter.
Yeah, that was maybe one of the scarier moments that I thought this is going to be something, and he got it collected. By the way, I know Jacob Watson was already a lap or two down when he pitted, but talk about the dangers of pitting under green here, how slow it is down pit road. That being, by the way, 40 miles an hour down pit road. If you ask Evan Nicely, he might convert that into kilometers for you, but Watson's now 6 laps down. I mean, you're going to lose, I would guess, 2 to 3 laps pitting under green here. So that's, I think, why people are hesitant to pit under green here and try something different, is because if you do it and you get caught and that plan gets exposed by one of those pesky yellow flags, you're stuck. Like, making up 2 or 3 laps at a short track is an impossible task.
I was looking at the driver rosters. We watched the battle ongoing for 8th to see if any drivers were flying under the Canadian flag. I think it's probably like 65, 70 kilometers an hour. There are none, though. Obviously, majority of the field flying under the U.S. flag, but you've got Nicolas Acosta flying under the Brazilian flag. So there is a little bit of international spice and flavor in this. Obviously, one thing that always jumps out to us when you see drivers from other countries competing in a series like this is the time change. Fortunately for Nick Acosta, the Brazilian, at least similar time zone wise, right? Sometimes you'll see folks competing in Western Europe or something like that where they're racing in the dead of night. And fortunately for anybody in South America not dealing with that challenge, time zone's pretty similar to what we have here in North America.
Yeah, riding on board with Matt Gagnon, by the way, wearing that Outlap Motorsports t-shirt. Matt and I had a pre-conversation about our thoughts in the race, that he was looking forward to it, but he was concerned. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm impressed so far by the racing today. I know I feel like I'm jinxing it, but I don't want to, but a really great race so far. I want to say, by the way, Nicolas Acosta wearing the Brazilian flag is Brazilian, born in Brazil, now lives in New Jersey. By the way, Kyle Dewey, an update from last week. We talked about this last week as well, the flags and how you can now choose those and everything. I get a note post-broadcast from Kyle Dewey. Carries the Chinese flag, lives in the United States, but carries the Chinese flag, I guess is just a homage to his wife, who is Chinese. So sometimes it's a cool way with this new system where you can pick your flag, where you can represent maybe your heritage, not where you live now, or represent something important to you, as compared to the old system where was this kind of given to you, for lack of better words, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's fun. You mentioned, drivers can choose which flag to race under. Kyle Dewey's always got the ANA as well, the Inspiration of Japan livery on that truck as well. So great, I think, for these drivers to have the opportunity to be proud of their heritage and where their family comes from, and always love to see that here and learn some of those stories. As there's a look at the ANA Toyota, and I always enjoy the paint scheme. Because if you don't know, ANA is an airline, and I spend a lot of time on airplanes, a bit of a plane nerd, so that one jumps out instantly, and the colors on that truck very similar to their iconic livery. Brett Adams down pit road in the number 23 truck. Is this maybe the front end of scheduled service? We're still, call it 14, 15 laps shy of being right on the money at halfway home, but he is down and in for service. Third truck, I should say, that's come down pit road. Do any of the leaders respond? Again, that is coming up very shortly.
Yeah, that is coming up shortly, and I think maybe a lot of drivers are excited for that to happen, right? Because, I mean, the tire fall-off is not to be unnoticed here. Fastest laps, by the way, look at your leader, for example, Steve Baker, 21.999, fastest lap currently, a 23.022, so almost a second of lap fall off between fastest to current. And that's just an example. It's about that for most drivers up and down the field, a second to a second and a half, maybe even for Andrew Sharp. So when you get in this spot, you're excited for those new tires. But I'm telling you, with how difficult this pit road is, I'm not sure I'd be excited to pit here. So it's just one small mistake on pit road, and you're going to fall from maybe leading this race to being out of this race.
And the lap times are so short here. One thing you immediately go to debate is, do you go for the undercut, right? Pit first, get the fresh tires, put down faster laps immediately and try to gain some track position that you'll then have to defend. The concern here is using Brett Adams as an example, even though the pit stop's only 15 seconds or so, total time on pit road, 40 seconds, if not more. So there is a realistic risk depending on where you are. There's only 11 trucks, by the way, on the lead lap. 20th position through 12th, one lap down. You could lose one for sure, maybe even 2 laps to the leader when you come down in pit. So that's the other concern, is that risk of short pitting, having a yellow flag come out, catching you down a lap is a risk at most of the racetracks we go to, but a 2-lap risk is massive in this race in particular, and that might influence some drivers to want to stay out a little bit later, just because you really don't want that to happen to you.
Well, a little bit of slider from Lownick. I agree 100%. We talked about it earlier as well, that you're right. You don't want it to happen to you. And maybe if you are someone who's only a lap down right now, if you're someone in that spot, if you're a Brandon Walter, a Brett Adams, a Brian Tope, you might even be trying to hold out hope if you see Bumgarner coming down pit road. You might be holding out hope that the leader pits here, and there's a few laps of a grace period where you're kind of hoping that caution does fly so that you can, secure that 1 lap down spot. But cars are quickly falling laps down as pit stops are starting. And I think this is about the point here. We're about halfway through the race, only about 38 minutes left to go. No, boy, I thought the Barney was going to put us 3 wide again. Barney, Lowendick, and Colton Lane almost looked like a 3-wide spot as, Robert Barney came out of that corner fast. I thought maybe him and Colton Lane were going to make contact.
And all of that, by the way, going on for position, but 2 laps down to the race leaders as they are racing just ahead of the group of trucks who came down pit road. Nick Byer, Brian Tope now on pit road. Brett Adams, Matt Scherf just having recently completed service, same with Bumgarner. So we're pretty much right at the number now. These drivers are past the halfway point on the stopwatch. And now you see some top 10 trucks in. Gagnon, Loving, they'll come in nose to tail. First time top 10 trucks have been in. And I would think the leaders will be coming down very shortly, as it's going to be 4 tires and a fuel for everybody who does enter.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's any way that's not the answer for everybody. 4 tires and fuel. I can't see a world where anybody wants to mess, with 2 tires. That doesn't seem likely at all. So, again, it's probably the same for everybody. The fuel, they'll fuel up just what they need. I got to say, though, I know there's some drivers missing this week, Evan, maybe some due to traveling, a couple due to suspension. I'm just going to come out and say it. I was hesitating, but we're more than halfway through. We're more than halfway through a race at IRP with 8 trucks starting, I believe, 26 trucks starting.
He's going to say it out loud, isn't he?
It's been one heck of a race. It's been a good race. We've seen a little bit of bumping, a little bit of beating, but a very clean race. No cautions. Yes, I'm going to say it. Dustin can put my Discord name on the screen if you want to send all the hate mail later. But this has been a great race. This has been, honestly, whoa, boy. See Steve Baker side a little bit. We've seen a much better race than I thought it was going to be. I was really concerned about what the story of tonight would be. I kind of shared with you privately, pre-broadcast, would we need to talk, have things to fill the time and the cautions. But these guys have put on one heck of a show so far this race.
And you see on pit road, Steve Baker is down from the number 1 position. So your leader's in. Bradley Holly's in. Robert Barney does have a black flag for speeding. He's down pit road with Richard Regan Jr., Ted Lowendick, James Morgan, Nicholas Hunter, and now Brandon Walter also down pit road. So it is wholesale stops. Barney does get the speeding penalty. He's going to be held once his pit stop is completed. That is going to hurt him. And now James O'Brien, who assumed the number 1 spot, responds. He's down pit road also.
Yeah, that's been the first time tonight we've had a different leader just due to the pit cycle. And here comes Steve Baker in that Solpec truck right back off of pit road. And he'll eventually get that lead back. There's O'Brien down. So O'Brien gets credit for leading a lap. Now I think Andrew Sharp will possibly get credit for leading a lap. We'll wait and see if that happens as Brandon Walter comes up and gets in front of him. Yeah, he'll come around and lead a lap here. So Andrew Sharp's pushing a little bit longer than others, and he'll get credit for leading that lap. So this is the first time tonight. It's taken, almost 45 minutes to find a new leader.
It has. We finally see it through the cycle and waiting on 8 drivers to come down pit road. And there is what we were all worried about. The caution flies after 104 laps. And you see the number 12 truck slow on the front straightaway. Something happened with James Morgan at a turn number 4. I think it's worth noting James Morgan had just pitted. So was out there on cold tires, not old tires.
Boy, not only did I do it, but it happened in a it happened in a team truck. This is not a good look, guys. There he goes, on around, just cold tires, maybe on the gas a little too soon, and looped it around. So this will be interesting. This will be a very good, interesting story to see who gets stuck a lap down and who doesn't, and all that stuff. Here's more trucks. Colton Lane, Andrew Sharp, Doug Rice, all down pit road. This will be interesting to see how many people. I think right now we have, 9 people on the lead lap?
Yeah, and several of them still have to pit. So Andrew Sharp, Jacob Dunn, they're going to come down pit road this time by. They had yet to complete service. Sometimes you'll see drivers intentionally stay out, the strategy being you want to stay out for so long that if you get the yellow, the drivers who already pitted have to come back in. We're not seeing that. Nobody who pitted in that big influx about the last 10 laps or so is double dipping and coming back down pit road. So Steve Baker is going to reassume the number 1 spot. He's going to be on 5-lap old tires. O'Brien's are 4 old. Regan's are going to be 6. But maybe it does give a benefit to somebody like a Dunn, who's going to have fresh tires. He and Sharp going to be top 10 cars on the lead lap and a 7-lap tire advantage. I don't know if that's enough of an advantage for them to all of a sudden beat the guys like Steve Baker, who have been so good and so fast and consistent tonight. But that certainly worked out in their favor because they were on the lead lap, so they maintained track position there. Other drivers hurt by the timing. Obviously, several drivers were multiple laps down based on how long it took to pit, so this will really hurt a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the tire advantage. I think it's about the track position, right? I think that's the important part. You see a bunch of trucks at the front here, by the way. They're behind the pace car. They're waiting to get the wave around. So Jacob Watson, Thomas Sink, Zachary Burnt, Williams is back there. So it'll be a moment before we actually figure out where everyone's going to line up correctly here behind the pace car. There's your leader, Steve Baker. I'm pretty sure he'll be first. So a bunch of cars are going to go around and get a lap back. Maybe not back on the lead lap, but at least get a lap back. But I think it's more about the track position. I don't think it matters how old your tires are for the most part. The fact you were up here, and even if those guys do get waved around to the lead lap, Evan, the fact that they could possibly get around here again and get back to the front is a very, very tough mountain to climb.
Yeah, it is, and it's a whole new ball game. You could wipe out the almost an hour's worth of time that's been completed thus far. It's a new race from this point on. 31 minutes on the clock. 11 trucks on the lead lap. Green flag in the air. We're back underway. Baker chose the outside. He gets the jump to turn number 1. Here comes Bradley Holly to the outside of O'Brien. Can he steal P2? Tight off of 2. We can, as the 19 truck is slow. Still green.
Whoa, look at that dive, but Regan way to the bottom is Richard Regan. Now, can he hold this spot, or does he kind of fall back there? That's going to be the question. Nope, just kind of fell back. That's what I thought was going to happen. Now, Dunn's going to try to get up under Richard Regan. And there's your caution. There's number 2. That's Kyle Dewey. Oh, boy.
Dewey goes around, and is it the cautions, breeding cautions? They were just as aggressive back there in the midfield as we were seeing amongst the leaders. So we'll see what happened to Kyle Dewey, who was last scored in 14th position at the start-finish line. That was a battle for position that he was in, but it was a battle for position kind of with the drivers that were in all different spots. Colton Lane was 2 laps down in 24th. He was 1 lap down in 14th, and Ted Lowendick was on the lead lap in 7th. So all 3 drivers on different laps. Let's see what happened.
Oh, just got a little bump from Ted Lowendick. I was wondering, the question in my head, Evan, was, Dewey, or doesn't he have a self-spin? Well, no, he didn't. He got some help for that gummy cluster truck.
Yeah, so definitely assistance in that one as the 13 truck on the bottom pushed up, got him in that very vulnerable left rear quarter panel. Let's jump on board and see Ted Lowendick's perspective.
Ted, of course, going to get the end of line penalty for the wreck here. Just comes up. They're 3 wide, not much space, and just there it goes on around.
Slow spin, not a lot of area down there on the inside. The damage and the impact to the inside wall looked pretty minor, but you can see for the 13 machine being the cause of the accident that Ted Lowendic's going to get an EOL. Now, he's still going to be a lead lap truck, so he's only going to fall to P11 on your leaderboard, but he's going to drop behind twice as many trucks as that just because of so many drivers running 1 and 2 lap down. So he's going to be significantly off of Bumgarner, and he figures, listen, if I'm going to be at the back, I might as well decide to come down at pit road and get some service. Lights stay on top of the pace car, so he is going to come down to the pit lane.
Yep. So I agree with that call. If you're already down there, you might as well come in and do all that. So let's run through your top 5. It's Baker, it's Holly, it's O'Brien, Regan, and Jacob Dunn, your top 5. And I mean, Baker back to the front. This has been the story all night. But I thought the story that was happening right there, Evans, for 4th and 5th. Regan tried to make that big dive onto James O'Brien and it didn't work. And therefore, Dunn was ready to pounce on Richard Regan right before that caution came out. I was excited to see where that was headed, if Dunn was going to complete the pass or whatnot. We'll never know because of that yellow flag. But it looked very interesting there for the moment.
And now we'll see what happens here with these restarts, right? The initial start of the race, we saw some aggressive action. We saw some close calls. We weathered the storm. And then once the field was able to spread out, got a long green flag run out of it. There is plenty of time on that clock, top left of your screen, for a long green flag run to the end. Will this thing spread out, or will these drivers be a little bit over aggressive with the opportunity that lies in front of them? And will we have more restarts to come still in this second half? The Tua Baker control car once more, this time choosing the inside of the front row, which is going to put the number 184 Holly to his outside. 27 minutes left on the clock. Green flag flies. We're back underway. Good jump to the inside. Baker's clear. O'Brien goes alongside in a battle for P2.
Interesting note, by the way, on these past 2 restarts that have happened here pretty close together, Baker has taken both lanes. That first restart, he took the outside lane. That time, he took the inside lane as there was a truck, the 27, of Steve Loving, who had scrubbed that outside wall. But just thought it was interesting to see if Steve Baker's is trying different strategies to take some notes for later. And there's Jacob Dunn in that 3 truck, and well, he's fallen back a couple spots in this restart, or in that purple truck, the 3 truck, falling back here. Here's Regan now trying to make the pass on the bottom of Bradley Holly, and Andrew Sharp wants in on the conversation.
Oh, and a spinner off at turn number 4. The 816 Nicholas Acosta parks it in victory lane, but not by design, as caution flag number 4 on the afternoon. Not the burnouts he thought he would be doing. Nick Acosta was 2 laps down. Let's see if he had some help on this one. We take a look from high and above. And as he comes off, he did have help, but that truck got loose on its own. Scrubbed off a ton of speed, and I find that hard, even though he was finished off by the 15 behind, hard to put blame there on Nick Byer, who was just running his line off the corner. Yeah,
that's going to be hard to analyze. You have to kind of see, look at Nick Byer's point of view and see if you think he had time to react or didn't have time to react. And that's part of what the race committee does, after the race. But now I feel bad. I said something earlier. Let's watch it again from Nick Byer's point of view. Yeah, I don't think he had time to react. That's a bang situation right there. But I made this comment earlier. We're having a good race, and now I feel like I did it. I feel like I did. I'm probably the most anti-commentator's curse believer. I think it's an overused gimmick, but yeah, boy, I said something, and then now it's getting difficult because now I think what's happened is people are going to start getting aggressive because now the time is ticking away. New tires. Here's Brandon Walter going around, by the way, but. It's going to only get more aggressive from here as time goes on.
And I always refer to it as the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And that is you get a caution or several cautions late in a race. Drivers are going to be frustrated because they're under the yellow flag. And what you want as a driver, as a competitor, is for guys to clean it up and go green, right? The problem is Yeah, Derrick, I think we're going to put this one on you. Is
That's fine.
When you have a caution, you're going to lose the amount of green flag laps that are left in this race, right? You burn opportunities to race under green. What that does is makes people more aggressive, right? You're going to be more aggressive on a restart with 65 to go than 75 to go. So what happens when you're more aggressive? Caution comes out. What then happens, right? You lose more green flag laps, and it's just this continuous self-fulfilling prophecy, which is ironic because all the drivers can tell you, hey, guys, let's clean it up. Hey, guys, let's be smart about it. But it's the drivers who are the ones who are going to be driving aggressive. And hey, listen, it's a tale as old as time in NASCAR style racing, and that is the cautions breeding cautions. So we'll see how the second half of this race continues to play out. Lights should go out on the pace car this time by, and they do.
Yep, here we go. So this time Steve Baker again takes the outside lane. I think he liked that better. He got a better jump when he went on the outside. So we got James O'Brien was inside, Robert Barney, Brad Holly, Thomas Sink's back up there, by the way, in the 48, next to Richard Regan. So lots of good racing going on here. Lots of names up and down the field. Tom Sink up 10 spots, by the way, as we get ready for this restart.
So double up once more. Steve Baker was on the outside, then chose the bottom. Now he's back on the outside. Continues to mix it up on what he wants on the front row. But what can James O'Brien do? Back in the number 2 spot. I think the battle to watch here on the restart is going to be the fight for second position. A green flag in the air, and there it is. The 2 car gets cleared. Battle for P2 is on. Holly pulls alongside O'Brien. Side by side P2. Behind them, a battle side by side 4th.
Yeah, look at this once again. The 2 truck has pulled away. Lots of side-by-side, but Bradley Holly is trying to work his way through. He'll get the advantage on the outside on James O'Brien. As a driver, you have to be happy to be up there on the top side. You have to say, hey, that feels good. That feels better, maybe is the right way to say it. And then the battle on through. Watch this corner here. Everyone's taking different lanes. It's hard to think when we talk about racing at IRP, Evan, that you'd see so many different lanes used in a single corner.
They are using more of this racetrack than what we have seen at any other point in this race. Your top 5 single file out right on the cue. Caution from behind. Another truck down it in victory lane. It's Nick Byer who has gone around this time. Nick scored in the number 2 spot. He was in the last spin and in a cruel twist of fate, Derrick. Instead of the truck in front of him getting loose and getting turned, this time it's him who got sideways on his own off of 4 and then spun by the truck behind him.
Yep, kind of the way that domino falls, right? The way the whatever analogy you want to use happens. What just happened to him, and you're right, kind of in a cruel, unusual moment. Well, Evan, as we're riding under caution here, let's do this. Let's take a look back 1 week ago. I know you weren't here. Myself, Danny Bouchard, had the honor of calling the PSR SimGamingExpo Truck Series League race from Worldwide Technology Raceway. You see, we were not without our bits of cautions and wrecks and calamity out of a corner, but a great race overall. You'll see it took a while. There was a glimpse of better racing, but it took a while. But eventually, of course, Richard Regan Jr. did come around to win that race. Now, all these pictures, of course, provided by Mr. Hedge. And at Mr. Hedge, sim racing, they know that sim racing is full of unforgettable moments. And Mr. Hedge wants to capture them all for you. From your first wins to fresh liveries to heck, even the crashes you'll never forget. Mr. Hedge turns virtual racing memories into moments worth sharing. They're clean, they're sharp, and it's made for sim racers. So please go visit mrhedge.co.uk to get your best iRacing moments in focus today.
Always some fantastic screenshots from the Mr. Hedge iRacing photography team. And what I love is the mix of the realism and the sim realism, right? Like the burnout shot, only something you can capture on the sim, right? The camera right there on the track with the burnout. But I also love perspectives like this, right? Could be a camera through the fence down in 1. And these ones right here, the perspective of the crowd adds such an additional layer of realism to them. Always love seeing the good work they put on.
Yeah, and seeing these pictures reminds me sort of the odd symmetry of these 2 races we're having, because last week at Gateway, it started off pretty messy. It cleaned up towards the end of the night at Gateway. here tonight at IRP. We started off really, really clean, more than a half the way through the race before our first yellow. And now we've got 3 of them really darn quickly here at IRP. So hopefully this cleans up and we get a good race in. Got about, 20 minutes of racing left on the clock here. Excited to see if we can keep this green and what can happen here.
And to stay on brand, Steve Baker again chooses a different lane. So naturally, you'll look for the number 2 truck down once again on the bottom to get the better jump. That's going to benefit James O'Brien from our number 2. The 38 should get a good start. And if we can get some laps in here, I think Hawley and O'Brien could be a good battle for second. Watch for Regan and Sharp to put on a good battle for fourth. We'll see if we get an opportunity to do so. A couple of cautions in a row set us up for another restart, this time inside of 20 minutes to go. Green flag back in the air. It's another healthy jump for the 2 truck. He's 3 car lengths clear at a turn 2.
Yeah, great jump here, and those guys behind. I think it's probably the best they've done so far on the quick restart at O'Brien and Holly, that is, at keeping in touch with Steve Baker. And now they're now clear because now it's O'Brien, I believe, ahead of Holly up front. See the battle on back. Jacob Dunn's back there. Ted Lowendick's back there. Steve Loving's back there. There's Richard. That's Matt Gagnes right back there in the Outlap Motorsports truck. Back there, there's Richard Regan up front in P4. Oh, there's a truck inside. That's Thomas Sink. That's a hard hit and no caution. Oh, my God. There's a caution when Colton Lane clobbers the front of Thomas Sink.
Yeah, it was a late caution, and it's worth noting those cautions automatically come from the sim, so that was not like anybody at race control kind of sitting on the flag and trying to avoid holding it, but Thomas Sink very clearly had a big impact with the inside wall. Let's wind it back and watch it on the big screen up top. There's the help into the inside fence, and again, there's no apron for that truck to stay down on, so when he jumps back up on track, the secondary impact is the big one there. That 60 machine of Colton Lane got punted into that wreck. Colton Lane tried his very best to check up before it. I don't want the blame to go to Colton Lane there. He got hit from behind and absolutely got sent into the truck that was wrecked up the road.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see what exactly happened to Colton Lane. Let's watch it here. Watch from behind Colton Lane. Yeah, that purple and black truck hits him. He was trying to check up, and then him and Sink make contact, and I think the only redeeming thing you can say for Colton Lane, it looked like that big puff of smoke had already released from the 48 from the wall hit. So while Colton Lane did more damage to himself, undoubtedly, at least he didn't do any more damage to Thomas Sink in the process. Here's the first contact again. Just a racing deal in my mind. Just trucks really close together. Yep, there you see that big puff of smoke come out of the back of the truck, and there's the second hit. Oh, man, we're getting close to football season, Evan. That would be like a defenseless receiver maybe kind of hit right there, like a blindside block. I don't even call that, but that's vicious is what that was.
Yeah, big hit. And those conversations, again, Derrick, before you even said it, I said, you're really going to say it, aren't you? And
yeah.
Tempted fate, a couple of cautions in a row here. And when we went to go back green after that first caution flag, when we got past the halfway point in this race, and we had almost gotten all the way through the pit service, I believe there was, 37 minutes left. And I think this format, the timed racing format, has even more of an effect when you get these late race yellows. I think it takes even more time and a percentage of the remaining time available out of the race than if it was just laps. So you go from having, all right, there's plenty of time for a long green flag run to 15 minutes. That's not a ton of time. You're looking at less than 50 laps now on the board.
Yeah, looking at way less than that here. Just over about 10 and a half minutes on the board to come around here. Lights are out. And you're right, it's the same. It's technically the same thing, whether it's timed under caution or laps under caution. But when that time is ticking away and you can't stop it, it feels like that variable is moving a little faster. On brand, actually off brand here for Steve Baker. He's chosen the inside lane twice, Evan.
First time in the last couple of restart cycles, he's chosen the same spot twice. He'll restart as the control truck from the inside of the front row. Green flag back in the air. He gets a good jump, but not his strongest. He's still clear for P1. The battle still behind for second. Holly on the inside, O'Brien on the outside. Big run off the quarter. Give P2 to the 38 Toyota. And a big dive for third. Here comes that 56 Richard Regan Jr., who shoves Bradley Holly out of the way.
Yeah, nice block right there, or a shove. You're right. From Richard Regan going up to P3. He's trying to help have a good points night. Remember, he's trying to keep within touch of Steve Baker. Baker wants to close that points gap. Regan wants to stop it from happening. Meanwhile, on back, there's Ted Lowendick, pardon me, and Jacob Dunn in the blue and purple truck side by side back here in the field. That's the battle for P6 happening. But boy, Evan, right now, if you're a driver, you have to know you can't hold back anymore. You have to start making the moves. You have to start getting aggressive. You're going to have to dig in these corners. You're going to try to outbrake someone maybe, and have to hope at the same time you don't become the cause of the next yellow flag.
Oh, and another truck
Robert Barney.
Sideways, but a big save. That was the 26, Robert Barney, who reels it back in, made contact with Brett Adams off of the corner, used every bit of the paved apron on the front straightaway to save that race car, and we continue on. That was for position amongst drivers 2 laps down. Here's the second look. Looked like it was the truck on the outside who got loose. Barney came off the corner expecting it to be higher and got a bit of a hip check.
One of those Adams Family trucks. Well, let's do this real quick here. Tonight's Miracle Flow team update, Evan, is really quick. It's one truck on the track. It's Bradley Holly, who's up in P4. Brad's had a pretty good night overall. He's up like 8 spots on the night. Brad's out here all alone. I don't know where his Nick is. I know that the Evans family, which is Jeff and Doug, father, son, were on vacation. Jeff only got home about 10 minutes before race time. He was out in Nashville for the week. I don't know if that's where Doug was as well. So Brad's out here by himself tonight representing Miracle Flow. And, I mean, overall tonight, Evan has done a pretty solid job of it top to bottom.
And I love this perspective from... Go ahead.
No, I was going to remember real quick. I mean, this is a driver who, you know, I think didn't have the best of times. You could see it in his face last week after the interview. Where he's still batting here with Richard, but having a fun time tonight. So, yeah, sorry, you're saying you love this view.
Yeah, it was just great perspective. But we talked earlier about how, you know, drivers were really only up on the outside. And I know it's off of the restart, but it does seem like as this race has gone on, drivers have had a little bit more real estate to work with. The battle between Regan and Holly has been a physical one at times. When Regan made the bump to get around Holly, Holly gave him a bit of a shot back. We have not seen anything since then. And to give credit to James O'Brien, he's not there yet, but he is keeping Steve Baker honest. The gap between first and second, only right now, call it 2 truck lengths. That 2 truck is not able to run away.
Yep. So this look at this one truck has been your Miracle Flow team update, where at Miracle Flow, it is more than hair care. It is built for the bold. They were founded in Rochester, New York back in 2015, and Miracle Flow was created to elevate both your look and your lifestyle. Miracle Flow is handcrafted for real performance. It's trusted by those who show up ready, Evan, whether it's for game time or for a night out with the boys. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just results. Miracle Flow, because your flow isn't style, it's a statement. Well, I'll tell you what, no shortcuts, no gimmicks, just results. That kind of feels like Bradley Holly's night right now. I mean, he is just putting up results. He's kind of sandwiched in there between Regan and Lowendick. But, I mean, up 8 spots on the night for Bradley Holly in a track like this, that is amazing results.
It has been a great night for him thus far. And, of course, we mentioned earlier, no Jeff Evans competing in this race. I think also no Nicholas Schwartz. So you talk about
no Doug Evan.
Yeah, so he's carrying the flag for the Miracle Flow group and is doing a fantastic job, no doubt. Again, he made up, though, I will say, a lot of those positions in the first, call it, quarter of the race, right? Got all the way up to third until Regan moved him out of the way. So for how good it started, anytime you run in top 5 in a race, you're having a good time. But I will say a bit surprised that it ended there. And also Richard Regan Jr. I know he's not part of that team, but you get the onboard look at him there. Maybe uncharacteristically quiet. And I say that fully knowing how ridiculous it is to say that about a truck in third. but he has just not been able to get that little bit extra. Can he find something here? Holly went on the attack, couldn't find the spot. Lowendick looks to the inside, and all that did was open up the door for Andrew Sharp up top.
Yeah, this is becoming quite the battle back here with Regan and Lowendick and Holly and others. And meanwhile, O'Brien and Baker are starting to pull away. Remember, Regan loves short tracks. I mean, heck, last weekend he took his Legends car out up at Loudon, New Hampshire. Evan was racing around in real life over the weekend. So not only in sim, but in real life, Richard Regan has that short track experience, and it shows here in the moment. The one I'm most surprised, by the way, honestly, is back there in P7, Jacob Dunn. Not always known for his short track skills. He's got his teammate James Morgan in P8 right behind him. These guys are having a great run tonight. It's not drivers we always see at the front of these short tracks for the Premier Sim Racing Sim Gaming Expo Truck Series. So congrats to those guys. Steve Loving's back there with them. So this is quite the battle here. Lowendick, Sharp, Dunn, and Morgan all trying to fight for the same spot.
And what a run it is, too, for Steve Baker. And I know that goes without saying, right? He has been the dominant truck in this one. But when we were talking to points, I said, 14 points off of Richard Regan for that guy having to win 3 or 4. You got to be feeling pretty good about yourself, but you're going to need to win some races points-wise. This is a great showing for him. And It started slow for him, right? He didn't get the result he wanted in the season opener at Pocono with 21st. Since then, though, a P2, a P2, a P4, and right now leading the race. So it has been really good quietly out of Steve Baker. And if he can hold on, I think try to get a well-deserved win. He and James O'Brien pulling away for the battle that you're watching right now for third. Richard Regan Jr. still has it. Bradley Holly still wants it back. That's his perspective on the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, it's a great run by Brad. So I'm get up in the wall a second ago. That was my reaction. So I'm kind of just get that back end into the wall. But I mean, he is all over the back end of Richard Regan. And Brad's the kind of driver that he's not going to purposely bump or turn you, but he wants to be a menace. He wants to be known in your rearview mirror. He's going to make you know that he exists, right? He's not quiet. He's not stealthy. He's just hoping he can put enough pressure on, to make Richard Regan flinch. And so just by making that move right there that Brad just made that last corner, a lot of drivers would have flinched, but Richard Regan held his ground.
And now starting to see the field stretch its legs a little bit. Inside of 10 minutes to go here at Lucas Oil, Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's round number 5 of the Sim Gaming Expo Truck Series, the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125. Baker has now led over 150 laps in this race. Is he going to be able to get the distance? Dunn's been getting loose as these drivers start to work on older tires. Jacob Dunn's 50-lap old tires, trying to hold off guys like James Morgan, whose tires have half the tire life that have been eaten out of them. Only 24-lap old tires for Morgan. So this 3 is on the hot seat right now. Every truck behind him for the next 7 spots have got fresher tires.
Yeah, and these guys are the OGs of Talbot Rossi Esports of driving here in this league. So these guys are best friends. They talk a lot. They practice together. They're going to the Sim Gaming Expo. They committed to going so they can meet up in person. They played college football 26 together. These guys are friends. So this is a fun battle to know these two and know their friendship, to watch them race like this. And here's Morgan on around, and here comes Steve Loving. Of course, that new look this year. Remember last season, Evan had the old retro Microsoft Windows 95 truck. This year is a brand new look for Steve Loving, and it got Brandon. That's not Brandon Walsh. That's a 43 back there with them. That is Matt Scherf. Sorry, get the wrong number there in my head. So it's still a good battle, but Dunn is kind of slowly falling back, and I'm not surprised. We've seen him scrub the wall a few times, so usually one of those leads to the other.
And you get a little bit nervous. If I'm Steve Baker, the race leader, seeing how close some of these battles are getting, Regan very clearly struggling to hold off the likes of Holly, Lowe, and Dick and Moore. The leaders are 2 seconds ahead. Regan's lap 0.4 of a second slower than the drivers in front of him the last time by. So really starting to struggle is Regan on this long run. If you're Holly, how aggressive do you get? But look at this line stacking up. Lowendick's there. Sharp is there. Morgan, not quite on the scene, but the 12 waiting in the wings as well. They're really starting to line up behind this battle for third on back. Something's going to have to give 5 minutes to go. Trouble for the 35. There is
Caution.
a caution.
Oh, no.
Doug Rice saved the truck, and there's a different spin. It's Zach
89.
Williams.
Yep. Yeah, I'm curious if these two are going to be related. I felt like where Doug Rice was spun out wasn't far from... Here's the start-finish line where we saw Williams, but Doug got it saved. That was just a tap to his back end, so we'll have to wait and see what happened to the 89. Now, we're going to go green flag racing again here for sure for a very short run to the finish here. Curious what may have happened in that moment. Here's the 89, and it's got Nick Hunter behind him. I can't imagine this is going to be... Nope, never mind.
Ooh.
That was a lot of ground made up by Nick Hunter. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I wind it back to a couple of laps. It looked like Williams was struggling a good bit, so the way that 19 closed in out of nowhere would tell me that Zach Williams was just not in the gas at all on corner exit there. There was some sort of an issue because Nicholas Hunter's corner exit looked fine to me speed-wise. It just seemed like that 89 was struggling, and you just kind of put the brakes on in front of him.
Yeah, I kind of started to say, but the gap in their times there, I started to say, I don't think these two are going to be related, and then all of a sudden it was. So yeah, something happened there. Either, you're right, either Williams was slow and off the gas and struggling, or Hunter was really digging in. But yeah, that's not a normal gap you should make up in a corner here at IRP. Well, a few trucks in the back are going to come in, get new tires. Again, with how important track position is, Evan, I would think anyone, heck, at least in the top 10. Let's watch this again here real quick. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing abnormal about that line. Like, there's no, dive bombing is the term we like to use in racing. That was just getting up to him. But I would have to think, Evan, no one in the top 10, not with like a crowbar or whatever you want, could you pry them off the track right now? Track position is that important that there's no way you convince those guys to come around and pit, I don't think.
Yeah, and knowing that, listen, with the way the clock is working out, this could be a one-and-done opportunity, too. It would be risky enough to give up track position even if you had the safety net of some overtime attempts. The fact that this thing could be 2 corners and done, I'm not surprised at all that the top 12 drivers decided to stay out. Bumgarner and Dewey have got fresh tires. They're going to be restarting with 4 and 2 tires, respectively, but back in 13th and 14th. Even if this thing went green to the end, there's just no time to do anything with them.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? So remember, hopefully we don't need it, but the admins do have that rule in the rule book so they can create quick cautions if needed, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. We're going to be 2 minutes here, maybe a minute 45 to go when this thing goes green. There's no way we get them lined up and ready to go again. So the final restart tonight, and once again, Steve Baker picks a different lane.
The outside for what looks like the final restart of this race. Steve Baker, dominant all night. Over 160 laps led. Can he close the deal? Green flag flies, but it's a stellar start for O'Brien. 38 car stays on the bottom. Side by side. Battle for the race lead. Contact off the 2. Baker gets loose. Drag race to turn 3.
Well, for the first time, James Baker under normal race conditions, possibly the lap. They're coming up through 3 and 4. Baker's going to have the lead on the outside. Oh, boy, that would have been close right there. I think it would have been Baker. But this is getting darn close now. Just a minute 15 on the clock, maybe 3-4 laps to go, Evan, and they're fighting hard.
And if there's an incident, caution at any moment could end this race. So who has the nose in front at any moment in time is so critical. Baker should have the preferred lane up top, but the 38 of O'Brien leaning hard on him. 2 truck the leader that time at the start-finish line. Call it 2 laps to go here at IRP, but here comes O'Brien. New race leader off at 2. 38 truck to the race lead. Baker tries to go back down to the inside. Can't do it. Here goes Regan now for P2.
Oh my gosh, Holly pushed Regan. Regan pushed Baker. Baker's the loser in that situation. Baker now back, I think, the 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th spot. Lowendick now through the bottom. This is going to get close here. 28 seconds on the clock. We're going to go around one more time. We'll get the white flag, this time from Barty the Flagman.
Frustration from Steve Baker. Did not like the bump and run from Richard Regan Jr. He's fallen all the way to the number 4 spot because Bradley Holly's in front of him. Up front, James O'Brien now going to try to work a 4 truck length advantage for the final time around here at IRP. Only going to look to lead 5 of the more than 170 laps total, but he nailed the critical restart when it mattered the most. Checkered flag. O'Brien steals victory at IRP.
Oh, rookie in the back. There's Doug Greisel around. You see what may have happened there. That's a possible story from last
and
week.
Regan
I don't
2
know.
up the road. Steve Baker gives a big shot to Richard Regan Jr. post checkered flag. I mentioned he was not happy on the radio, and he's let his feelings known. He had lost that battle for the lead. There was some contact, leaning on each other with O'Brien, but when Regan had the opportunity, it was a forceful shunt. And while the drivers in second and third disagree post-race, who would have seen this one coming? James O'Brien picked the right time to pull a rabbit out of the hat. What a final restart for the Team Hype Toyota to snatch victory here in the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125.
That's an amazing run by James O'Brien. Just waited for the right moment to pounce. Got the restart of the Millennium from second place. Did a great job. So let's take a look at tonight's unofficial results. We'll start, of course, with James O'Brien being your winner. He's going to beat Richard Regan by over half a second. Then Steve Baker comes home in third, Bradley Holly's in fourth, and Ted Lowendick rounds out your top 5. It's James Morgan, Andrew Sharp, Brett Adams, Kyle Dewey, and Steve Loving rounding out your top 10.
Continuing on through, Matt Scherf comes home in the number 11 position. Matt Gagnon in 12th, and Jacob Dunn finishes exactly where he started. A race winner earlier this year. He ends up 13th in this one. Dustin Bumgarner, 14th position. Big spots gained for the likes of Mike Toomer Jr. and Nicholas Hunter, as they'll end up 15th and 17th spot. 18th goes to Robert Barney. He was P4 when this race started. Did not get the race he needed out of the 26 camp. He's ahead of Nick Byer, 19th, and Brandon Walter in P20.
Moving back to the last cars here. This is 2 or more laps down. Nicholas Acosta is in 21st. Brian Topes in 22nd. Zach Williams is in 23rd. And then Colton Lane and Zachary Burnt round out your top 25. And then Jacob Watson, Thomas Inc., and Nick Saroff round out a 28-truck field.
That's a look top to bottom at your full race results as we head to the Regan Bogue Motorsports post-race show. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, speed is just the starting point. Success is built through discipline, focus, and development. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, their iRacing coaching is built to develop winners. Through one-on-one training, the focus is on the fundamentals that turn fast drivers into champions. Smart racecraft, disciplined decision-making, and pressure-proof performance. This isn't about quick fixes, it's about building a foundation for lasting success. Regan Bogue Motorsports, developed for wins, built for championships. And I believe we have tonight's race winner standing by. It is James O'Brien, who will head to Victory Lane here at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll get a word with him now. And James, first off, congratulations on the win. You were up and in the conversation all night long, but didn't really get a chance to lead laps for position on merit out the pit cycle until the final restart where you nailed it.
Yeah, I was actually didn't want that last caution because I kind of wanted things to play out at the end. Steve definitely deserved that one. I don't really know what happened behind me. It sounded like there was a chain reaction going into turn 3, and it just unluckily got him. But I had a lot of fun racing him. Steve definitely had the quick car all night. I love IRP. It's always been one of my faves. I'm glad that it's still in use. But I had a lot of fun tonight. The car felt great the whole time, but dang, Steve was quick all night.
What happened in the end that was the difference maker for you to be able to get the best of Steve, a guy who led 164 laps in this race? I mean, early you have the long green flag runs all the way through a pit cycle for you guys up front. Was it just you were better short run speed, or were there other things that you learned? Did the track change? I mean, what was the difference there at the very end?
I think during that long run, I was trying to save. I didn't really want to push too hard, and at the end, obviously, the time was ticking down, so I was just pushing more. I messed with the brake bias a little bit, so I was able to get into the turns a lot more aggressively and kind of use more of the right rear. And even before that last caution, it seemed to pay pretty good dividends. I was able to hang with Steve a lot more. I don't know if I'd be able to pass him but I think I would have been able to hang with him. And at the end, I timed the restart perfectly. I almost too well. I think I almost jumped it, so I had to lift. But yeah, I think that was really the difference maker there. I think even without the little bump at the end, I might have been able to stay with him, and we would have had a really close finish.
You guys have had some good speed. I mean, all season long, good qualifying efforts in Pocono and at Lime Rock with the top 3 to boot on the road course at Lime Rock. And then not the qualifying effort you wanted at Gateway last time out, but another top 10 to finish for what'll be 4 top 10s in a row, but the first win of the season. How much more does it mean for you to be able to turn those constant good runs into a trip to victory lane, especially given the talent that's in this series?
Yeah, it's awesome. This is only my second season ever driving this truck really full time. I've come from Cup and Xfinity, and it took me almost whole season last season to get used to this thing until Michigan, when I started figuring some stuff out, and Rich was kind of helping me out with wheel settings and whatnot. I've always been really consistent driving other cars, always been kind of top 5 everywhere. Last week I had a penalty. I had to start in the back, but I'm glad I was able to drive up through the field and finish solid. But hoping for more. Just keep continuing. I'm looking forward to Watkins Glen and whatever's coming up next.
And we're looking forward to the final 5 races as this season continues to play out. James, we'll let you get out of here and celebrate. Before we do, though, anybody you want to say hi to?
Yeah, you guys, everybody watching. Looks like we got a few viewers in the chat there. SimGamingExpo, I'm looking forward to try and go in there. I'm in the time attack, doing pretty well there too, so I might be able to race on stage for that hopefully too. And everybody at Regan, Bogue, Motorsports, and Team Hype.
Well, we'd love to see that come to fruition over at SimGamingExpo, and I know we're also excited to see how you guys can keep this momentum up and continue to challenge for wins in that Team Hype Toyota. James, we appreciate the time, and again, congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you.
It's your race winner in the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125. It is race win number 1 on the season for James O'Brien. Orchard Regan Jr. ends up 1 spot shy of a 4th win of the year, Derrick, but P2, the highest we saw him at any point in this race. He capitalized on some late race restarts and will continue a good defense, I think, of his title lead.
Yeah, well, it's sort of become tradition to have Richard Regan up here in the booth, usually for a different reason, for a win, but still up here talking post-race. Well, Rich, we have to start with the obvious. I know there's a little bit of commotion towards the end of the race, maybe a little bump into Steve Baker at the end. What's your perspective of what happens here?
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, it's short track racing with, 3 to go, so it's going to be hard racing regardless, but I got barely tapped by Brad there, and it just rolled over on the right front, and, I mean, if anyone wants to look at my telemetry, I'm hard on the brake trying to stay out of him, so it's not like I meant to do it, but, I mean, we've also been racing hard with him for a couple seasons now, so we normally race hard and hit each other all the time, so is what it is, but it's still short track racing, so.
So I kind of think you said to phrase it short track racing, so you're probably not even that annoyed by the post-race bumps. That's just people showing little frustration, right?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I get it, but I mean, if he wants to carry that on to something, he can, but I'm sure I'll get protested.
We'll wait and see what comes of that. So we talked in the broadcast. I didn't get a chance to ask you this week, so I hope this is a good answer. But last weekend, we know you wanted to take the Legends car out to Loudon. How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, it went all right. I wasn't driving it. My buddy was driving it. It was his second Legends car race, so first time on a road course for him. So he just, trying to get acclimated to the car and acclimated to the track, and he did pretty good. And we had a pretty good weekend. Picked up a lot of lap time as the weekend went on, so definitely looking forward to going back there next month.
All right, well, last question. Of course, next week we move on to Kentucky, or Kentucky as the broadcast schedule once read it. So what's the outlook for that track?
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while, so I don't really know what to expect going into it, but hopefully it's a good race, hopefully it's clean, and hopefully we got some speed. I was struggling pretty much all night tonight. So hopefully next week I can have a little bit more pace and see if I can get 1 spot higher.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, great job tonight in P2, and we'll see you next week. I know you want to do your thing, so let's ask you to be proper. Who do you want to say hello or give a shout out to?
Yeah, like to give a shout out to Mission 22, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Nianas and Paints, JC Photography, Stant Analyzer, Kaylee Sweet Creations, SimGamingExpo, everybody at Regan, Bogue, Motorsports, everyone at Premier Sim Racing, and you guys at Green Flag TV.
Awesome, buddy. Well, listen, great job tonight. We'll see you soon.
See you.
All right, that is Richard Regan Jr. Come on, P2. Well, let's just going to hop right into talking to the driver who finished third, Steve Baker. Well, Steve, we just talked to Rich, of course, P2. His comment was, it's short track racing. I know you were a little frustrated by the end of the race. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sure the guy who does the running over is going to say that.
What's your perspective? I mean, I don't know if you've had time to sit back and really watch it yet. Maybe you have in the replay, but what's your perspective of what happened?
I mean, on track, it felt like I got ran over. As soon as he got beside me, he said he got touched. I went back and watched the replay, and yeah, I mean, you can hear the throttle go up when he's right beside me, and that's pretty much when we door check. So it is what it is. Sure, it's short track racing, that's fine. Just want to say shout out to James. Great racing with him side by side for several laps there at the end. And yeah, hell of a win for him.
So I have to ask you something we were kind of commenting on and maybe even a little perplexed by in the booth. Were you just having fun with the field by picking the different lane each restart? Were you just trying to see which one worked better? Was it like trying on different shoes at the shoe store to see what fit better? What was going on with the picking different lanes idea?
Yeah, I mean, it was mainly just team stuff. That's pretty much it. I felt like both lanes were pretty equal. I don't know if the bottom would have worked there better at the end, but yeah, mostly just trying to work as a team, I felt like you got such a big jump on the restart that it didn't matter too much. James just did a really great job on that last one, timing it about as perfect as you could.
Well, listen, next week we move on to Kentucky. What's your outlook? What's your comfort level for that track?
Yeah, Kentucky's all right. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of all the 1.5 miles. Prefer the short tracks or road courses, but I'm sure it'll be a fun one. So we'll go there and try and have fun. Tonight was fun for most of it, and then yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, listen. Well, great job. You led over, I think, 150 laps tonight. A great run. Things to be proud of. So great job on that, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you. All right. Well, Evan, I think it's fair to say there's two very different perspectives of that same moment of the race.
Yeah, and I think we expect some sort of fireworks, disagreements, whatever you want to chalk it up to when you go short track racing. And if you like close quarter stuff, there's more flat tracks coming up, right? A short track in Richmond, a flatter track in the Milwaukee Mile. So there will be ample opportunity for more of this as we look forward, though, to the next race. We enter the second half of the season with a trip to the Kentucky Speedway in 1 week's time.
Yeah, all the U's, of course, a joke for those who've noticed in the broadcast that we had a couple extra U's in Kentucky at first. It was more Kentucky. So we're going there. A track that, again, no longer used in real-life NASCAR, but used pretty maybe a little bit more often in iRacing, Evan. So 1 week from tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be here. You will not. You're taking another week off. We got to work on this PTO thing. I got to figure out how Evan Posocco gets all this PTO.
I know our coordination is out of sync. They've got
Calling
the colonel
HR about this.
sitting right. They've got the colonel at Kentucky Speedway, I think, in the sim. So
Ooh.
As long as we get a shot of that, it's going to be fun. And of course, once we wrap up here tonight, stay tuned for some post-race coverage of the Beer League racing over at Laguna Seca. Until next time, though, that is it for us here tonight from Brownsburg, Indiana. On behalf of our whole team at Green Flag TV and the folks over at Premier Sim Racing, and for your broadcast team tonight. As always, for our producer, Dustin, Ollis, for Derrick Watson, and myself, Evan Posocco, want to say thanks for tuning in, and we hope that you join us in 1 week's time. It's Wednesday, July 30th, from iRacing's virtual Kentucky Speedway for the Rosemary Custom Homes 145. That race and every race of the SimGamingExpo Truck Series can be found right here on Green Flag TV. Till then, good night from IRP, and congratulations to James O'Brien, winner tonight in the Regan Bogue Motorsports 125.